Hey, this is Pizza Dude Man Guy, and today we're looking at the roster of JTA Hivemind. I hope that's the name you wanted me to use for that one. So over here, this is the first half of the roster. It's a 100 character roster, so here is the second half. Before we dive into it, I do want to go over some of the notes that were given to me for the roster so that we have context for what it's all about. The icons next to certain characters imply that the character would play like the character in the icon who, with the exception of Ganondorf icon on Deathborn, have been removed from the roster. So there's lots of cuts, but those cuts then become playstyles for some of the new characters. This roster is mostly my own personal picks, but focused on filling out archetypes, creating unique fighters, replacing the scrap veterans with new characters who would play similarly so that, for example, former Jigglypuff's mains wouldn't be entirely left like sitting ducks, and using a variety of different body types. I also wanted to have 100 characters on the dot, not counting Mii's. Now, one thing I already noticed on the roster is it doesn't have Mii fighters, so I'm assuming that means that Mii fighters are invisibly here. That's how I'm going to read that. The other way I'm reading this is that this is, kind of like my 100 character roster that I put out this last year. It's mostly personal picks, right? We're not saying it's like this is a likely scenario for a Smash Brothers game. We're saying if I was in charge of this game, these are the characters I would pick. So, right, I'm not going to be too judgmental on the choices, but I am going to give my thoughts on them. Some Smash veterans have new renders to show a recent appearance. I think Smash reviews for their design, the next installment of the Smash Brothers series. I see that here with Bayonetta. All of the original 8 have their rivals. You sold me on that on Dia, bro. Yeah, that's something I've really been into. WTF picks have lost their luster because everyone requests everything these days. Yeah, Piranha Plant, they did a good job of still surprising us, but it gets harder and harder. So I tried spreading a few kind of sort of WTF picks here and there. Glover, Rotom, Imposter, NES. We'll talk about those when we get to individual choices. I didn't include Echo Fighters on this roster, but if I did, they'd be Toadette, Eevee as an Echo to Pikachu? How would that work? Is he gonna be standing up the whole time? Metal Sonic, Apollo Justice, and Black Knight. For Shovel Knight? That's a really short Black Knight. The Pokemon roster specifically has one from each generation, each starter type, a legendary mythical Ultra Beast, and a spin-off representative. That's a very large Pokemon lineup. Pokemon's allowed to be large, but yeah, we'll see. Let's go over the actual roster. There's more notes, but they're character specific, so I'd rather get into the choices first. Alright, Mario section, we got Mario, Luigi, Peach, Toad, Bowser, Goomba. And then it looks like Wario is being counted as part of it now. That's fine. Geno, Paper Mario. It has a really nice spread of characters. We lose Dr. Mario, but that's derivative. We lose Rosalina, which I said before, I think of Rosalina as kind of an extra anyway. We have instead here Geno, Paper Mario, and Toad. I like all those choices just as much, so I don't mind that. And the Piranha Plant, instead we have Goomba. Now, yeah, in a realistic scenario, I don't see why they do that since they already made the choice of Piranha Plant, but I like Goomba as a individual choice more. I think, there's more stuff to do with it, so I do like it. Now, we'll talk about this later, but the Goomba, as you can see in the icon there, is going to be fighting similarly to Jigglypuff, which is not going to transfer completely directly, but as long as the playstyle is the same, I think it works. I think that's the idea with a lot of these that you'll see. It's not like they're echoes or clones or anything like that. It's just that they're fighting with the same type of playstyle, so that the playstyle is still present. That's the idea. So keep that in mind. That is the idea. We got Donkey Kong, Diddy Kong, K. Rool. That's a pretty full set to me. Link, Zelda, Ganondorf. I love Skull Kid. Linkle's a choice. I don't dislike that choice. It's not my favorite choice. I think it's a good choice. Samus, Ridley, Ravenbeak I like a lot. Yoshi, Kamek. Kamek has been my big one for having a Yoshi rival. I like Shy Guy. Shy Guy has so many variations. It's such an icon of Yoshi. I think you could make a very, very fun Shy Guy moveset. You got the full Kirby set there. Kirby, Meta Knight, Bandana D, King Dedede. Star Fox has been reduced to Fox and Wolf, which I believe I did too. So we got that big Pokemon section now. Here's what we got. Pikachu, Meowth, who I'm assuming is just kind of like your Pikachu rival, and then you got Charizard and Mewtwo. Those are all, really big Pokemon. Caesar for 2nd gen, Subtile for 3rd gen. Rotom's interesting to me because I just don't see a big need to replace Lucario, but it's a personal roster, and also, Rotom's still a good choice. I think you could do a lot of fun stuff moveset-wise with Rotom going into the different, machines and this and that. So Rotom is by no means a bad choice for 4th gen. I like it. Meloetta for 5th, Greninja, Blacephalon, I guess that would be replacing Incineroar and give us Ultra Beast representation. So that's kind of a different, nice spread. I like Corviknight. Ursaluna, I suppose, then would be the spin-off one. If this idea grows, then I'm assuming you're going to keep just one spin-off one, whether that's between Arceus or the upcoming, XY spin-off they're doing. Is it Z Legends? I think it's Z Legends. But then an eventual 10th gen Pokemon too, if this idea, stays relatively the same in the future. Pokemon gets bigger and bigger. Right now, there are more Pokemon than even, Mario adjacent characters, if you're counting Diddy Kong or King K. Rool. But if any series was going to do that, it's Pokemon, and it's only by, one. Even in, Smash Ultimate, if you're considering things like Ivysaur and Squirtle, it gets bigger. So I think that's fine. Pokemon's so big. Let's see here. I missed a couple things here. We don't have Young Link and Toon Link anymore. That's derivative, so I don't mind. Dark Samus, that's an Echo, so whatever. For Pokemon, no Pichu, that's derivative. Pokemon Trainer is now just Charizard again, which I think is fine. We talked about Lucario, Incineroar, yeah. It's really just a lot of different choices. You see that in the Fire Emblem section, too. Corrin's been replaced with Azura, Byleth's been replaced with Edelgard. I made the same choices in my own roster. I think those are all fine replacements. The context for the roster is you're doing your own thing from scratch without any of the, preconceptions from what we already have in Smash. And so looking at it from those standpoint, these are all fine individual choices. There hasn't been an individual choice that's like, why would you pick this character at all yet, to me. Let's move on to the second half of the roster. We got a full Sonic lineup here. Not that I mind. I love Sonic characters, so you're not going to see me complain about having Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Eggman. Plasmrate's interesting. I guess if you're going to have a monster from Pikmin rather than another captain, Plasmrate's a pretty good choice. Zero is nice. I do think it's a little unusual. You have Shulk and you have Rex. I'm assuming Rex is going to be kind of now a catalyst for Pyra and Mythra. Because that would make sense. It's unusual to me though that you have Shulk and Rex but not Noah and Mio in some way, because it's that game was successful too. That was good. Why are we not building on that? We have Xenoblade 1 and Xenoblade 2. Okay, we just need Xenoblade 3 and we don't have it. That one I don't understand. That one looks a little weird to me. Sephiroth has basically been replaced with Black Mage. Once again, that's just a different choice. You're getting a bigger spread of Final Fantasy there. Hero, Slime, sure. It's an iconic monster. Banjo-Kazooie, Conker, I like Conker. Glover has always been weird to me. You said it's in there as mostly as a WTF pick. It's one that I was actually introduced to more through Smash rosters than through actually being familiar with Glover's game. So I always thought it was a very weird choice, very out there for a third-party character choice. Not bad, just out there. Illager, second Minecraft character. We got the additions of both Phoenix Wright and Miles Edgeworth. As personal choices, I'm not going to complain because I love Ace Attorney. Yeah, we got Shovel Knight in there. That's a nice pick. Human from Undertale. I really think Undertale might be something that happens in future Smash. I would love to see it. And I think the Human's a good choice. I've said I prefer Sans, and I do. But, it's kind of the same as me for preferring Karate Joe for Rhythm Heaven. It's like... There's lots of good choices. I think the Human is a very valid, very good choice. Force Burn is Rivals of Aether, which I'm not completely super familiar with, but I'm assuming it's, you kind of take the same fighting game philosophy as Min Min and Kazuya and be like, you can really pick anything from here. I'm pretty sure, and we'll get to this later, that Hivemind picked Force Burn for... just different character archetype reasons, so that makes enough sense to me. Min Min is not on this roster, which upsets me a little bit, but, personal choices. If you didn't like ARMS, you didn't like Min Min in Smash Brothers, yeah, you're probably not going to put Min Min in your roster. Pea shooter. I like Plants vs. Zombies. I think, personally, I would like to see a Plants vs. Zombies character be something moveset-wise, whether you want to make this pea shooter or just a human like Crazy Dave or something where you're incorporating all the different plants rather than just building a moveset off of one. But, I mean, I'm going to assume that's part of it. Traveler is Genshin Impact. Yeah, that makes sense. That's a big one. Imposter. I don't see Imposter on as many Smash rosters as I thought I would. I mean, Among Us did really, really great. I wouldn't be surprised. I think that's another one that we should talk about more. Street Fighter's been updated to include Chun-Li. That's such a big video game character icon. SNK has Haomaru now. That's a big personal choice of mine. I really like Samurai Showdown, so that is who I would want to see next for SNK. I don't know if that's the most likely thing. You know, it's possible they might go for like Nakaruru or gosh, who knows. But I like Haomaru. Let's see, what are we missing here? Lucas has been taken out. You know, it's mostly derivative of Ness, and Earthbound's so tiny. I also didn't include Lucas on mine. I think if you just stick it to Ness now, I don't really have hopes for Mother 3 becoming an international thing. So I totally get the idea of Ness just being the sole over-encompassing, like, Earthbound character. It's what I did too. Let's see here. Pit's all on his own. Same thing. Kid Icarus is just so small. There were a lot of Palutena fans, and Palutina's in Smash because of that. But if I'm making my own personal choices, I'm not going to prioritize Palutena. If I'm doing a roster with lots of cuts, I'm not going to prioritize Palutena. So, yeah, there we go. Let's see here. Isabelle is out in favor of just Villager. You know, I think that's a choice. I've more been on recently, you know, agreeing that Animal Crossing is so big, because it is so big that you kind of justify having both Villager and Isabelle, and then you have Inkling, you know, with Splatoon, add on Octoling. But this is a personal roster, and I think those are fine choices to just have those series represented at one character. It's not like, you know, another Splatoon character, if you are going with something like Octoling, is just going to do different but similar things to what an Inkling does. In Animal Crossing, you can pretty much encompass in one moveset anyway, because it's not a fighting thing. It's not like you have this big variety of fighting powers. So as big as Animal Crossing is, I don't think that necessarily means it has to have a lot of playable fighters. You can represent it in other ways, you know, assist trophies, music, stages. It doesn't have to have multiple playable fighters just because it's a big series. I think having just one is completely justifiable. Oh, let's see. Pac-Man, Bayonetta, Simon. Richter is gone, which, I mean, he's pretty much exactly like Simon, so whatever. Joker, Sora. Hey, Hachi's interesting. Once again, kind of like, who was I saying earlier with Piranha Plant? In a realistic scenario, I don't see why they would suddenly, like, cut Kazuya and then add Heihachi, because they already made that decision. They already decided, well, okay, we're going to Tekken character, we're going to have Kazuya. But I do like Heihachi more. I think Heihachi is a better character choice. It's who I would have picked in the first place. So, on a personal roster, yeah, that works for me. Crash, Rayman, love Rayman. Bomberman, I've really gotten into. The Prince from Katamari. That was one of my favorite for Smash videos I ever did. Katamari is such a great series, so I'm totally down for it. Dante. NES Remix we'll talk about a little later when we get into the character notes. But as a WTF character choice, yeah, sure. There it is. Scott Pilgrim. We'll talk about later as well. Some of these characters I already know have like specific notes. Just as a Smash fighter, sure, having a beat-em-up character with all those different powers would be a lot of fun. So I'm not going to knock it as a character choice from a Smash perspective. I think that'd be pretty cool. All right, so let's get into some of these character-specific notes. The Goomba would use its wings to jump a lot and have great airspeed. Paired up with the right aerial kit, I think this character could be a perfect replacement for former Jigglypuff mains. Now, this is actually going to be one of my biggest criticisms on this roster. The Goomba is there as a character choice, but then is taking the combat style of Jigglypuff so that Jigglypuff mains still have someone to latch onto. I think that's a cool idea. The problem I have with the idea is that it doesn't go all in. Some characters are there, right? Jigglypuff is taking over the mantle. Is it being taken over by Goomba? Sheik is Caesar now. Squirtle is Meowth now. But there are so many characters that don't have something replacing them. You don't have something for Ice Climbers or Rosalina or, gosh, I made a few notes here. You know, there's nothing for Incineroar. There's nothing for Sephiroth. There's nothing for Wii Fit or for, you know, I think if you're going to go with this idea that you're still keeping the playstyle so that people have someone to play as if they made another character, you got to go all in on that. Because I think that's a big theme of this roster, right? If you have Goomba as a character choice, you could just have Goomba be a Goomba and not do like this floaty airspeed Paragoomba gliding thing to try to match Jigglypuff, and it would be a more fitting Goomba. But it's okay to make it Jigglypuff-esque to fit this theme of keeping the old playstyles. That's an interesting idea. But I don't see the point if you're not going to go all in on the idea. You know, how come Jigglypuff mains and old Ganondorf mains get to keep their playstyles, but not Rosalina mains and Ice Climber mains? Those ones are just totally gone. I think if you're going to do that concept, you got to go all in on it and make some choices of what characters can emulate some of the fighting styles that you've missed. Like I said, this is just a critique of how you've laid out the roster. I think that's a cool idea. I think you should go all in on it then, if that's going to be the idea. Otherwise, just scrap the idea. Just have Goomba be Goomba, have Caesar be Caesar, and don't worry about trying to emulate the characters that you've cut. You can even make some different character choices in that case. I mean, would you really be picking Deathborn if you weren't just worried about appeasing old Ganondorf mains? You know? Pick one of those things, your character choices, or having all the old fighting styles, and go all in on it. That's my biggest critique. Meowth is a tiny Pokemon that would probably have fast attacks and potential for movement options that can leave it open to punishment if not done correctly. Pair that with some poor kill power, and you've got yourself a perfect replacement for Squirtle, right? You know, do this kind of thing for all of the missing characters. Meloetta is the only character to have two icons next to her because I want her to have mechanic for switch between Aria form and Paraway form, which become Lucas and Falco. That's right, you can see that here. Transfers a little slowly. She's got two. Alright. I don't know about you, but I think the single best-selling game in the world deserves at least one more playable representative, and the Illager is commonly used as an enemy to the player. And much like the Goomba and the other generic bad guys I put in the roster, they have a lot of different variations you could put into one composite Illager. And that works for me. You know, there's quite a few series that have two characters in there for you. There's Phoenix Wright, there's Minecraft, there's Mega Man. So yeah, that makes enough sense. I imagine Miles would play very differently from Phoenix Wright. As an example, while Wright could play similarly to Ultimate Marvel vs. Capcom 3, Miles would play a game of shutting down the opponent. One day of doing this would be his down special, which I call Autopsy Update. In Smash, this would reset all character gimmicks to 0, but a massive cooldown. This sort of thing is why I put him on the roster. I mean, I don't mind the idea of having two completely different Phoenix Wright characters. I would love that. I chose Frisk over Sans as an Undertale rep due to an old article I remember reading about Toby Fox expressing interest in a playable Undertale character. He specifically referred to Frisk, but requested that they be named Human in Smash to avoid spoilers. Okay. I chose Forsburn as the Rivals of Aether representative because of his focus on stealth that is unmatched by other characters, not just in Rivals or Smash, but in any fighting game. Mock Rock Talk has a video on the top 10, blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to watch another person's video on this video, but I might check it out later. But yeah, no, it's exactly what I said. You know, Forsburn is there not just to be a representative for Rivals, but because of a unique play style. So that's cool. The character I called NES Remix doesn't have an official name to my knowledge. He appeared in an old Australian commercial. Right. A character utilizing NES games for its attack is a popular one, so I decided to put a face to it. The thing I have a problem with that, just conceptual-wise, is it feels very Mr. Game & Watch to me. But the reason that Mr. Game & Watch works so well to me is because a lot of those Game & Watch games didn't really have specific named characters, so you have like an avatar to incorporate all of them. For NES games, those games do have, you know, representative characters. Like, what are you doing for an NES Remix character that's not already been a part of something else in Smash, right? You've cut Ice Climbers, and you've cut Duck Hunt, and you've cut Rob, so I guess you can just kind of amalgamate those into one character. In fact, I think you had Duck Hunt over this guy as, like, a replacement for the Duck Hunt playstyle. But, those characters, a lot of those characters, like Pit and the Duck Hunt dog, are such big Nintendo icons on their own. You know, unlike the stick figures of Game & Watch games, those are like big Nintendo characters people know and recognize. So I'm not so sure about using an avatar for NES games when so many of those NES characters are big icons. You know, it feels more like a way to just condense down the number of characters into one character. On the other hand, it's there somewhat to be a WTF pick as well. So I think there's some give and take. It's not my favorite concept. I don't think it's a bad concept, though. It works for the type of roster you're going for. Scott Pilgrim is my attempt at walking the line between third and fourth party characters. There are other options like Agumon, Hatsune Miku, but I like Scott Pilgrim, and I wanted to add a beat-em-up character to the Smash roster. I'm not sure if I personally would count Scott or not. The arcade game is its own thing, but it was originally made to coincide with the movie, and it does both. It loosely follows the story of the books, and it's stylized after that art style as well. So I'm not sure if I would consider that enough of its own thing or not. But once again, as a personal roster, I think you can get away with something like that. Oh, other character notes. I forgot this existed. I want Kamek to be able to turn opponents into solid blocks. That'd be pretty funny. They just have to not fall. Deathborn would have Ganondorf's Smash 4 moveset, so no sword. That's fine. I think Tails' fight could be represented by him having 6 jumps and letting him hold jump at the apex of a given jump to slow his descent like Steve, Batman, and Bugs Bunny doing them. Okay, yeah. I want the hero's spells to be sorted by category on menu. Your first option is always a sword move, second option is always projectile, third is always a status condition, and fourth is whatever else. I kind of like that idea. It gives a little more consistency to the character. The Traveler could utilize 7 different elements of their moveset, which they can switch between to have different special attacks. These elements would create reactions that do a variety of things, from constantly giving an opponent hit stun to a giant explosion. Okay, kind of an alternative to Hero. I like it. Brawl Fan 1 made a really good video on the Imposter, but the cliff notes of it is that the Imposter would summon crewmates and try to make opponents sus in the eyes of the crewmate when he tries to eject them by throwing them off the stage. That's a pretty funny idea. I like it. Alright, so like I said, I'm not totally sold on the idea of an NEX Remix character, but I think for the purpose of the roster, it works, along with all the character choices. Like I said, there's no character choice that I was like, oh, this is a bad character choice. The context is that you're making your own 100-character Smash roster. We don't worry about, you know, the tradition of the characters. And so, what character choices do I pick from there? Now, you try to compromise that by having old play styles in there, but you don't include all of them. So I would rather, like I said, this was my biggest criticism of the roster. I'd like to see you go all in one way or the other. Either you go all in on, these are my character choices, you know, traditions out the window, or you go all in on, we keep the play styles of all the old characters, and you really make a choice of which of these new characters are using some play style aspects of old Smash characters. The other big criticism I have for this roster is the lack of Snake. That one really stands out to me. The reason Snake stands out to me so much is because out of all of the third-party character choices you have, that is the only one that has been entirely eliminated. Right, even other ones where you've added some new characters or made some replacements like Heihachi to Kazuya, the universe still exists. Metal Gear is completely gone from this roster, and I just don't understand why. I mean, Snake was the very first third-party character in Smash, so it seems a little weird to me that despite keeping every other universe and mostly every other third-party character, Snake is the one that has been removed. You have, you know, 4 Sonic characters and 2 Ace Attorney characters and 3 Street Fighter characters. You can't find some way to wiggle Snake into there somehow. So I think the biggest character omissions to me are Snake, someone from Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and then my other thing is going all in on this old playstyles idea or scrapping it. But yeah, otherwise, like I said, all the character choices, they're your own, and I think they're good. So yeah, thanks for showing me your roster. For the time being, I'm going to try to keep up with doing this at least once a month. As soon as I committed to doing this idea, my life suddenly got busier, and I'm like, I was going to try to do these weekly. I don't know if that's going to be possible. I still have all the ones that have been sent to me, so pretty soon here, I'll do another raffle, pick another roster. If you want to submit a roster or a moveset or anything to me to take a look at and show off in a video and give my opinions on it, just become a patron on my Patreon, patreon.com/pizzadudemanguy, and submit at least $1 and some ideas to me, and hopefully I'll get to it. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time for the next video.